caught my fiancée kissing her toxic ex, so I cancelled the wedding, but now my family hates me. I'm a 26-year-old male, and my fiancée, who we'll call Emily, fake name, is 24. We met at university and have been together since then. After 3 years in the relationship, I proposed, and she said yes. We had some issues that I don't want to discuss, which delayed the wedding for a whole year. A few weeks before the wedding, I got a disturbing call from one of our university friends. He told me that Emily and her friends were at a club without me knowing, and by chance, they ran into her ex. This ex was someone she always hated because he had manipulated and gaslighted her in the past. So, hearing that she was talking to him was hard to believe, until my friend sent me a picture of them together. I tried to stay calm and waited for her to answer my calls, but she never did. Frustrated, I then called one of her friends, who was drunk at the time. I asked her directly, where are Emily and her ex? Tell me now. She realized I knew what was going on, and she said I shouldn't worry because Emily just kissed him, not a big deal, and that I shouldn't be insecure about it. I hung up, went for a drive to clear my head, and decided that I didn't want to be with someone like that anymore. The next morning, I canceled the wedding immediately and broke up with her via text, then put my phone on airplane mode. I spent the next few days crying and trying to pull myself together. When I finally turned my phone back on, I discovered that Emily had painted me as the villain to my family. Even my dad called me a disappointment. Now, I'm at a crossroads. Should I tell them the truth and clear my name? Or do I let it go, knowing that my family doubted me without hearing the full story, and is now bombing my phone with hateful messages? Some relevant comments. Are you kidding? You tell everyone. Your folks, you friends, her folks. You should have done that right away. Always control the narrative and tell the truth. Now you may have one big issue. How can you prove this happened? Talk to more people, get the goods, and do not take this laying down. Also take note of those that are blaming you and blast the hell out of them. You will know who is on your side and who is not. It's better now than later. Imagine yourself 35 years with a child and this happens. Highly likely, since she did it before marriage, the situation will be much more tense with kids in the picture. Your family is yours, they will always take your side. If they don't F them too. She cheated, mate. It's not on you, you bite the bullet and move on. Hopefully find someone. The stoic point of view is that you can only worry about your side. You can only give love and hopefully receive it back. You just gotta do your part. And it's not on you. There's always someone for you. I'm sorry about the whole thing. Story 2. This is a long story, but I would appreciate it if someone read it and gave me some advice. This is my first Reddit post, so I'm not too familiar with how these things work, so please bear with me. I, 23 male, have been dating a girl for about a year and 3 months now. When we first got together, she warned me that her parents, mainly her father, is a bit crazy. Boy, was she right. When we first got together, everything was good, no issues with them, and I heard good things back from her, that her parents liked me. Her dad is a very straight and arrow type of guy. His way or the highway. He has a lot of control over her. She has a curfew and is not allowed to stay over whatsoever. Don't even think about it. Which I can somewhat respect considering she still lives at home, etc. She's not allowed to attend any of the weekend trips that me and my family go on, even though her parents are invited to them as well. There was one instance where he did say yes, that she could go on one camping trip with me and my family. What a F up. We were lying in bed at night about to go to bed. We have very limited service where we are, so text messages and phone calls kinda come when they want to. She gets a text message from her mother saying to call her ASAP, etc. We blast out to the road to try and gain some better cell service for a phone call. She reaches her mother and her mother tells her that she is here to pick her up. We passed by her on the way out but didn't clue in that it was her. We meet up with her mother and she says that her father sent her up here to get her. We are about 5 hours from home, so here we are thinking something terrible has happened for her to drive 5 hours to come get her, only to find out that he just wants her home and regrets saying yes to her going. We stood there and talked for roughly 2 hours, and her mother insulted me multiple times for reasons as dumb as the genre of music I like. Let me remind you, her parents were invited on this trip but chose to stay home. They both end up staying with me and my family for the night. Her mother waking up and leaving before the sun rose due to fear of embarrassment. She goes home later that weekend to find that her mother is in trouble with her father because she went up there and tried to get my girlfriend to come home, which would then go against his word that she could go. Then my girlfriend was also in trouble for not listening to her mother. Sounds crazy, right? Just wait. Her mother has always been nice to me, making me coffees and sending me home with leftovers, etc. Her father has always been nice to me as well, even though he always has something to say behind my back to my girlfriend for something as small as the vehicle I drive isn't a high-quality, long-lasting Toyota. Just recently for family day I invited her family up to my father's house to go ATVing. Something I have done on a few occasions, but they have never taken me up on my offer. This time they did. The morning of when they were supposed to come, her dad says he isn't feeling well, which is fine, no pressure. He ends up saying he's going to pass, but that her mom can still go and he will load the ATVs for her and she and my girlfriend can go together. So the ATVs are loaded, trucks packed, they're ready to leave. At the last minute he says to her that this isn't a good idea because she's never towed this specific trailer with this truck. She's been driving big trucks and trailers for over 30 years. They owned a landscaping company together. She ends up starting to second guess herself and ends up bailing too, but she still decides to come up and she will just ride one of our machines. The day goes by, we have an amazing day, and she goes home to find him in a fit of rage that she went without him and all this other stuff from past experiences with her. Nothing bad, she's a very good wife and mother, he's just out to lunch. He ends up kicking her mother out for this and she goes and stays at a friend's house. Few days go by and she comes back and they talk. My girlfriend overhears them talking about me, mainly him yelling at her, and she's just listening. He tells her that she emotionally cheats on him with me because of how nice and helpful she is with me. The coffees, leftovers, etc. Turns out he doesn't like that she's nice to me because I haven't put in the work. Not sure what that means, he can't even explain it himself. I have helped them around their house many times, from yard cleanup to cooking dinner and breakfasts. This is getting to the point where he's mentally abusing all of us and he's playing mental gymnastics to get them to listen to him and go by what he says. No one's allowed an opinion or an option. He just recently said I'm not allowed at their place anymore, which is extremely hard on my girlfriend to do all of the driving. We live about an hour apart. In the past he's complained that I don't come down enough. Now I'm not allowed at all for next to no reason other than his wife is nice to me. They stopped sleeping in the same bed and he got mad at her for sleeping in the bed that I usually sleep in when I stay over there, saying that she's only sleeping in that bed because I did. He got so mad that he punched a hole in the door while she was trying to sleep. When they both listen to him and abide by his crazy rules, the house runs smooth. When they don't, it's like the sky is falling. There has been many instances like the ones I just explained over the years that my girlfriend has explained to me. Her mother has been kicked out over a dozen times for stuff as small as this. She's a battered woman. Everyone who she talks to is telling her to leave. Me, my family, her boss, her family, and even the women's shelter she called told her to leave. She won't, so I have gave up trying with her. She recently booked a trip for her and my girlfriend to go to England to see her mother. Her dad has a big fear of airplanes, so he does not fly. Over the whole family day situation, he made her cancel the trip to England, saying how if she didn't, then she didn't love him. I should also mention that my girlfriend's mother's mother is currently being treated for cancer and she hasn't seen her in over 10 years. She does end up canceling the trip and my girlfriend is devastated over it. Rightfully so. Anyways, there's lots more to this. This is just a drop in the bucket, but that's the main juicy stuff. Things are okay between her and I, but she always seems to get sucked into his crazy narcissistic ways, saying she's a terrible daughter and that her mother is an idiot for letting her date me, etc. I recently offered to let her move in with me to escape this, but she seems hesitant to leave them. I'm not going to twist her arm that if she doesn't leave to stay with me that I'm going to break up with her, but I frankly want absolutely nothing to do with her family anymore, and that's not healthy for her or I don't think. I feel bad leaving her over her family stuff, but I have to deal with these people for the rest of my life and I just know I won't be able to do it. I feel lost and muddy on how to deal with this. I don't see us lasting much longer if she stays with her family, because I will not deal with their stupid small nonsense issues with me and her dating. Mainly her father, and her mother is just a spitting image of him due to reasons I have stated above. A lot of their marital issues are blamed on my girlfriend because her father is not approachable on anything, so her mother does it for her, and that causes issues. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this much of a response, thank you. To answer some commonly asked questions. My girlfriend is 20. People keep missing it. We have been dating 1 year and 3 months approximately. We are both white. I have not broken up with her yet. I have just been considering it because of how bad things are with her family. I wasn't sure if it was right or fair of me to do that. My girlfriend is an only child and she has said previously she worries about what will happen to her parents if she leaves, especially her mom, and she thinks her mom will be blamed for her leaving, which I agree with. My girlfriend is also not the rebellious type, so I think doing something that she knows is blatantly against what her parents would want scares her. Update. First off, thanks to everyone for taking the time to respond. I was not expecting so many comments and so much advice. We also both really appreciate everyone's care and concern for my girlfriend's situation. It meant a lot to us both. I took everyone's advice and sat my girlfriend down for a chat before I made any permanent decisions. Despite being on Reddit asking about breaking up with her, I would actually like to keep her around. I did what a lot of you guys suggested and explained how I'm feeling with the situation with her parents and how much it puts on me. I told her how I don't see a happy future for either of us if things don't take a drastic change. I explained how when I look at my life the most stressful part is her parents and it shouldn't be that way. I also told her that I don't feel good bringing my future kids into that situation and that my days shouldn't be spent worrying about her and her family constantly and waiting for the next big blow up. She was super upset that I was at the point of ending it with her. She reminded me of how she had me promise I wouldn't ditch her because of her parents, which made me feel very guilty. I told her I love her and I don't want to hurt her, but I also need to protect myself too. She said she understands that completely, and it's along that same line of reasoning for why she wants to move out. That she loves her parents but has to protect herself. She apologized several times for letting it go this far and dragging me into it. I could tell she felt absolutely horrible, which made me feel horrible in return. Something must have finally flipped for her because she asked if the offer of moving in was still on the table, and I told her it absolutely was. I asked her why she changed her mind, and she said that she could never look at her parents the same for being the reason she lost a good guy who she loves, and that she didn't want to go backwards anymore. So she moved out, told her dad where he could stuff it, and I'm happy to say we're unpacking her stuff and getting her settled in as I type this out. She has also agreed to severely limit contact with her parents, and any contact she chooses to have with them will have nothing to do with me, and they will have no place in our lives as a couple unless we're both okay with it. Story 3. My father has always been against any confrontation or arguments. He is extremely passive, refuses to stand up for himself, and avoids any conflict. If someone isn't paying attention while walking and bumps into him, he insists it's his own fault. If his employer would mess up his salary, he wouldn't bother fixing it. If a mechanic didn't properly repair his car, he would just accept it as is. This unfortunately resulted in a tumultuous childhood with my insanely narcissistic mother. She controlled his every move. She got him to quit his job and be a locked and stay-at-home dad. She had him do every chore. She insulted him at every step. She cheated on him relentlessly and even brought APs into our home. She enjoyed making his life miserable every day, and he never questioned it. My extended family, God bless them, were there for me so many times, as much as they could be. They tried for years to make my father leave, but he never budged. When she would direct her anger onto myself, in the form of screaming, insulting, or general demeaning, my father never once found the guts to stand up for me or support me. When I was a kid, if I cried to dad about something mom did or said to me, he would sweep it under the rug or just insist I forget about it. Hell, he would even try and justify it. As I grew older, it really set in for me how messed up this was. My mother gladly kicked me out of the house when I was 18, and my father just sat there and looked sullen. Didn't say a damn thing. I joined the Air Force almost immediately and got stationed on the other side of the country. The dynamic was awful, and I could have easily gone down the incel route if not for therapy and the amazing people I met along the way. It took years for me to get in a better mental space. I was filled with hatred. My mother left my father 2 years after I got stationed and utterly destroyed my father in the divorce. She was killed a year later in a DUI with one of her APs. I took a lot of joy in hearing that it took her hours to die, and that's when I really knew I needed help to process things. I'm almost 30 now, have a girlfriend who is perhaps the best thing to ever happen in my life, and fully understands the situation with my family. I have learned to not allow myself to be consumed with anger and resentment by my past, or so I thought. You'll see, and instead put that energy to my future. I have been extraordinarily low contact, near no contact with my father since I left. As much as I try, I cannot make the connection with him. I recently went to a family reunion and brought my girlfriend with me. My father was there as it was his side of the family. They have many issues with him, but he is family, so whatever, I guess. I made sure to avoid him. I was chatting with my uncles when I heard my father talk in the background. He was discussing how a coworker of his was going through a divorce as he discovered his wife was having an affair and was positioned to have a very favorable divorce on his side. My father remarked how his coworker should work instead to forgive his wife and, by his own words, set a good example for unity and forgiveness, and how he believed he set a great example for me in that extent. I swear it was like a switch went off in my head and I was mentally back to being the rage-filled 18-year-old. All these years and he never learned a damn thing. I turned to him and asked if he was effing serious. He looked at me and started to stutter. I know the next minute was pure word vomit and I can't relay it perfectly, but to sum it up, I shouted how he was a pathetic father, pathetic man. His family all know he's a disgrace of a human being who would rather his son be treated like crap than defend him because he's an effing coward. No one would ever see him as an example to live by. His wife would rather F half the neighborhood than even touch him, and he should never ever believe anyone respects him. I began to derail and ramble between my shouting, and my girlfriend quickly took me out and drove me home. It was insane just how quickly being away from him made me feel better. She just held me when we got back and told me it's okay. Again, best thing to ever happen to me. I was ashamed of how I lost it and am now going to resume my therapy, that's a given. However, I'm glad I finally unloaded a hey always needed to be said onto him. Extended family is pretty mixed with reactions. His brothers, my uncles said it was time for him to hear it from me. My grandparents are pissed I did that in front of the entire extended family, with some saying I should have done that behind closed doors instead of everyone. Update: thanks for the advice and recommendations, even amongst some of the yes the idiot. However, some of them needed to be addressed because they were either hilarious or cringe-worthy. Some of them were very angry, and they kind of confused me at first until I saw their comments further down or saw their profile, and saw rants about double standards or complete non sequitur ramblings about women. So yeah, not helpful advice, and they were great dark reflections about how I could have turned out if not for the support in my life. Some attempted to portray my dad as a humble, kind, caring, sensitive old man who I'm just being a big bully to. This was a very good insight into how enablers of abuse get away with so much in today's world, because so many people forget how they are part of the abuse themselves. Some were attempting to mentally dissect me or have a gotcha moment with me to pull apart my story. That was generally asinine, and I had to step away from those before they asked for my cranial measurements or something. So it was pretty much immediately when I was up the next morning that I realized I needed to resolve the events of last night. I first spoke to my girlfriend and gave a sincere apology for having her see me like that. She reassured me that nothing was wrong. She'd known me for years and has always known me to be level-headed, and understands why I kinda snapped. She herself has a history of dealing with narcissistic family, so she absolutely understands the dynamic. She only really told me that it would be best to work on spending time around my extended family since my father will always be there. I told her don't worry, I'm immediately going to talk to them afterwards to figure that out. So that part's fine. Looked like kind of an ass in front of her, but I'm making sure that doesn't happen again. I also informed of her my intentions to resume more therapy just to keep myself steady, which she was happy to hear. I called my grandparents and sincerely apologized as well for putting such a sore dent into their family reunion. That it wasn't appropriate, and while I still feel it felt good to say that to him, it should have been privately, and not in front of everyone. I also told them that going forward, as much as I love spending time with them, since the family always hangs out in one group that my father will always be in, for now until I can handle being around him, I need to distance myself occasionally until I feel comfortable interacting. I told them that I am nor would I ever be establishing an ultimatum or demands of them, and that either way I need to step back. I guess during my apology and explanation I was kind of just going on a tangent because my grandfather interrupted me to calm down. He told me that after I left, people kind of separated or slowly started leaving, and they eventually were able to talk to my father one-on-one. I guess seeing me have such a freak out resulted in my grandmother having a mini freak out of her own when she started talking to my father, resulting in her kicking him out. While I have a great relationship with both, my grandmother has always been extra protective of me, so seeing me that way must have set off a fire in her. My grandfather then said that it has become a bit of an open family secret my father's failing. His brothers taunt him about it and generally don't have a great relationship with him, and for my grandparents it's always just uneasy. But seeing me the other day and how it still affects me so much has really liked, and for a lot of people that it was really bad. They began to try and say sorry if they didn't do enough, which I very adamantly retorted that they did more than what anyone could have expected. It was very emotional for a minute, but culminated in then telling me that they have decided to distance themselves from my father for the time being, and have given him the ultimatum that unless he has a deep introspective and regularly goes to therapy, that distance may become permanent. My extended family, I've been told, are going to try and reach out or call or whatever, but I asked them if they could relay to them that it's not necessary, and that I'm fine, and I'm sorry to them as well for ruining the day, which again, they told me I shouldn't apologize for being hurt. Since then, extended family have sent some messages with the general consensus that it's okay, with some older members complaining about my lack of respect towards my father. And finally, I texted my father hoping to meet at a local coffee shop and have a final talk. I met him and he didn't look good. I think his parents tearing into him finally got the message through. I had so many things I could have said, but I instead asked him first thing if the coworker he gave the advice to took it well. He just said that neither him nor several coworkers interact with him anymore. I asked him if he truly 100% believes that every single thing he did for me as a child was for my benefit. He didn't really say anything. I then finally asked if he has any regrets for how I was treated as a child, and if he thinks he ever did anything wrong. He looked utterly defeated and just mumbled that he could have done more. I could have poked and prodded and could have gone on another rant. But instead I told him this should be goodbye and I hope he gets the help he needs. I think finally unloading my frustrations was what I needed to finally be able to move on and find peace. I absolutely need to keep on track for therapy and admit that a public bitching moment isn't okay, but I should be fine. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.